3 months ago, I sold everything and dumped it into crypto right after the brutal tariff sell-off. At the time, I was saying that it was the bottomed and we were likely to go a lot higher, but everyone in the comments was screaming that I was delusional, I was reckless, that we were actually going way lower, sub $70,000 Bitcoin, etc. But it's been 3 months and I have an update on how this bet has played out so far. Was it a disaster or did I hit the jackpot? As well as I'm going to be doing an update on my entire portfolio for this house bet money, doing an update on my 2-week prediction model, which I took some of this house money. I started leverage trading it using that prediction model on Hyperliquid and how much I've either lost or made so far on that bet. And finally, just a quick update on my $10,000 to $1 million portfolio, because also that $10,000 came from my house money as well. And overall, I'm going to be talking about why I believe this initial 3-month period is really just a practice round for what comes next, and why the real money and the real gains are ahead during what I believe is going to be the next great crypto alt season starting later this year. Okay, so let's rewind time all the way back to April 2025. At the time, Bitcoin and alts had experienced an insane sell-off where Bitcoin went from $109,000 all the way down to a low of $74,000. The price action at the time was extremely brutal. A lot of people were extremely fearful because of tariffs and all these kind of things that Bitcoin was going to go a lot lower. At the time, you had a lot of influencers on X saying that we're going to go to sub $60,000 Bitcoin or sub $50,000 Bitcoin. But at the time, I was saying that we were actually going to go a lot higher and that this was the bottom of the market. And I had a multitude of reasons why I believe that. Some of that was based off of my modeling on the back end that just showed that macro conditions were set to improve from there. Some of that was just like a gut take, having experienced market environments like this, that fear was peaked at its max. Everyone who was going to sell had sold, and it really was just upside from there. And I posted a tweet at the time where I said, I'm literally in the process of selling my house and deploying every cent I have into the market. We end the year at a new all-time high for Bitcoin. The writing is on the wall. I posted that on April 6th, which was literally 1 day away from the exact Pico Bottom of the market. And on the exact day of the absolute Pico Bottom, I posted this video and said this. I've said it before and I will say it again. I believe we're going to end this year a lot higher than we are now. I believe we're going to hit a new all-time high in Bitcoin's price before the end of this year. You probably think I'm crazy because right now is peak fear and everyone else is telling you that we're going to absolutely collapse, the whole world's going to burn down, etc. Except that's what everyone always says at the bottom. At the bottom, hysteria is max, fear is peak, and that is usually the absolute best buying opportunity. I'm seeing a lot more upside from here than I'm seeing downside. My personal belief is that we probably bottom sometime this week. The second half of the year is going to be insanely bullish, and people are going to be shocked how quick we flip from bear to bull in the coming months. And during this time period, I was deploying more cash that I had sitting on the sidelines back into the crypto markets. But unfortunately, during this time period, my house had not yet sold. I was in the process of trying to sell my house. But as you guys know, selling a house doesn't happen overnight. It's a little bit of a process. It takes some time. And I was waiting for all of that stuff to finish up. It wasn't until around the April 28th period that I finally had the cash in the bank from selling my house, and I was able to deploy it into the market. But by that time, Bitcoin had gone all the way from $74,000 up to around $94,000. Despite that, I took all of my house money and I deployed it into the market. And at the time, I made a video on my YouTube channel talking about how I took the profit from selling my house and I'd put it all into the crypto market. Meaning at this point, I was literally all in on crypto. My entire net worth, besides like some operating cash in the bank to like pay bills, etc., was now deployed in the crypto markets in anticipation of a coming alt season later this year. And here's specifically what I bought with that house money and what I've been doing over the last 3 months with that money I invested into the market. Keep in mind, again, this isn't my entire portfolio. This is just the money that came from selling my house. The proceeds from selling my house after I paid back the rest of my mortgage, etc., were around $160,000. And one of the first buys I ended up making with this $160,000 is I took $10,000 and I put it into Researchcoin. If you guys have been following my channel for any amount of time, you guys know that I deeply believe in Researchcoin. I believe that it is literally the chosen token because Brian Armstrong is the co-founder of this project. And I believe given a retail mania, given an all-out alt season, retail is just going to latch on to that narrative and take this thing to the absolute just Pico, ridiculous frothy levels. If you guys saw my recent video, 10,000 to 1 million, where I'm trying to build like a super high risk $10,000 portfolio that I'm hoping to take to $1 million by focusing on just like really small high risk tokens, $2,000 of that portfolio as well was also invested into Researchcoin. I've been talking about Researchcoin since 2023, since back when it was only 13 cents. I've done countless videos on this token through ups and downs because I genuinely am a diehard believer that come alt season, this token is genuinely going to do insanely well. And literally the day after I launched my 10,000 to 1 million portfolio, Brian Armstrong ended up happening to post about RSC, and not just posting about it, but talking about why Coinbase was now going to be listing RSC. This is what his post said. Coinbase added RSC today to its listings roadmap. Since I'm the co-founder of Research Hub, I want to share a few details about precautions put in place years ago to remove any conflicts of interest. And then he goes into all this stuff about that, and he retweets a post from Coinbase Assets saying, assets added to the roadmap today, Researchcoin. And after this announcement, Researchcoin ended up absolutely sending, hitting a peak of around 73 cents before coming back down to around 64 cents today. As of right now, Researchcoin is still not live on Coinbase, but I actually think that when it is listed on Coinbase, it's going to do really well, especially considering that could mean, later down the line, we see it listed on Binance, etc. And especially just considering like most of retail is not able to access Researchcoin today because it's currently on chain and they just don't know how to buy stuff on chain yet. Anyway, I'll talk about my $10,000 to 1 million portfolio a little bit later in this video, but from that initial $10,000 that I invested into Researchcoin, it's now worth $26,400. So it's more than doubled since making that investment with my house money. The second investment that I did with my house money was $10,000 into Polygon's Pole token. And as of today, that $10,000 is worth $9,708. So that one's actually gone down. And I still believe come an alt season, the Pole token is going to do really, really well. But up until this point, it has been just an absolutely horrible, horrible position to hold. And as accounted for the fact that Bitcoin's gone from 94,000 to all the way up to a peak of 123,000, 122,000, somewhere in there. And despite that, Pole's token has gone down from the point that I initially invested this house money up until today. My third investment was $10,000 into Cow token, which I've been talking about Cow protocol for years now. Basically, you can think of it as like a competitor to Uniswap, but built on Intense, which is like this really cool concept. And they use these things called batch auctions. It just makes it so that when you swap tokens, it's like the cheapest, best price you could possibly get. It aggregates across a multitude of different liquidity sources. And there's tons of aggregators in crypto. That's not really unique, but specifically what's unique is their Intense-based architecture and their batch auction architecture, which is where the real magic happens. And at the time when I first started talking about CowSwap, they were just on Ethereum, but since they've expanded to Base, Arbitrum, Polygon, Avalanche, and I know they have plans to expand to more chains and eventually do like cross-chain swaps. Really an incredibly underhyped project in team. Anyway, that $10,000 today is worth $13,488. So it's gone up marginally, not anything ridiculous, but that is a pretty decent gain. The fourth investment was $10,000 into Winner. Winner has been one of my all-time favorite projects during the last couple of years. At the same time, it has been one of the worst performing projects over the last couple of years, but I am still a hardcore believer in what they're building, where they're going, and I genuinely believe they're going to absolutely crush it come alt season. Today, that $10,000 is worth around $10,478, so it's gone up a tiny bit, but nothing insane. After that, I put $10,000 into Index. Today, that $10,000 is worth around $9,354, so it's gone down a little bit. After that, I put $10,000 into Una token, and I've recently done a video on Una and like a deep dive if you really want to see like my bull case for why I'm extremely bullish on Una and everything they've been building. They're also another team that's pivoted into AI, which, as you guys know, I have a deep belief that this alt season, AI is going to be the single hottest narrative. I think at least one, probably multiple projects in the AI sector are going to surpass $100 billion. I do not think that's going to be Una, but I do think whatever project that is that ends up surpassing $100 billion, it's going to be extremely bullish for all AI crypto tokens. And Una, again, has hardcore pivoted into like AI games, AI products, etc. And so that's why I've been extremely bullish on what they're building. Currently, my $10,000 invested in Una is worth around $23,240. So it's more than doubled over the last 3 months, and I'm really excited to see where it goes from here. Now, initially, the rest of my money I threw into Bitcoin. So at the time, I was like, I don't know what to invest. the rest of this into at the moment. So I threw everything else into Bitcoin, knowing that I had a really high confidence that Bitcoin was actually going to go a lot higher, even from the $95,000, $94,000 range. And of course, Bitcoin has gone quite a bit higher from that range. But over the last 3 months, I've siphoned away some of those funds that were put into Bitcoin to go do other things. One of those other things was to leverage trade using my Bitcoin 2-week model. It has had so far a consistent track record of being like ridiculously accurate. And I was trying to figure out a way like, how can I actually use this to make money? And so I initially took around $10,000 out of that Bitcoin to start leverage trading on Hyperliquid. But after the first kind of few initial successes, I ended up taking more of that money to leverage trade on Hyperliquid, in total around $40,000. And basically the way it works is I'll run my Bitcoin 2-week model, and it kind of tells me a prediction of where it thinks Bitcoin's price is going to be in 24 hours and where it thinks Bitcoin's price is going to be in 2 weeks. And then based off that prediction, I've been playing around with different strategies that I can deploy to actually make money off of that by leverage buying Bitcoin. So sometimes I'll do 3x, 5x, and sometimes I've done 7x and 10x leverage, buying Bitcoin at what the model says is sort of like the bottom of a range and then selling it closer to the top of that range. And I've been doing this consistently for a little over a month. And besides my very first initial trade, every single trade since then has been profitable. And in total, so far, I've made around $18,904. Next up, of course, is my $10,000 to $1 million portfolio. As I mentioned earlier, and if you watch my most recent video, I put together a portfolio of just $10,000 that I'm trying to take from $10,000 to $1 million. And I'm doing this by focusing on extremely high risk, high reward potential tokens. So that means really, really tiny tokens today that I think, given an alt season, could do extremely well. And as I mentioned earlier, I got stupid lucky in that literally the next day, Brian Armstrong made a tweet about RSC, announced that they're going to be launching it on Coinbase, and the price absolutely skyrocketed. Alongside of that, the majority of the other tokens have also done well. A good portion of that, or like at least a chunk of that, probably comes from the fact that I posted a video about those tokens. And despite all the warnings in the world, people always just seem to want to try to copy trade me because I post YouTube videos, and they just think, I guess because I'm talking about it, it's going to go up. That's definitely not always the case. As I say, a lot of times, if all I had to do was talk about a token and it went up, we would literally all be rich, but that's just not how it works. But it seems like that was just kind of enough attention to cause these things to sort of blip on other people's radars, that a lot of outside buyers as well ended up coming in and buying these tokens, pushing them to a lot higher price points than they were initially when I made that video. And obviously you guys know that I never try to pump tokens or like do short-term pumps or anything like that. I'm not selling any of these tokens. I'm waiting for Altseason because I'm a diehard believer that Altseason will pump all these tokens and I don't have to do anything. I have zero plans to sell any of these things anytime soon. I've been holding a lot of these tokens for literally years without selling any and only buying more because I'm a genuine true believer that Altseason is coming, and I feel like it'd be stupid, absolutely stupid to sell at this point. And the tokens in that portfolio are Una, which I talked about earlier, Avo, which is like an AI agents platform I'm extremely bullish on, Winner, which I talked about earlier, Geode, which is like a DPEN project that has around 4 million in annual revenue that all comes from outside the crypto space. And they take 80% of that revenue and buy back their token. SFG, which is like a crypto trading card game, but is from the guy that made Magic the Gathering, literally the most successful trading card game of all time. RSC, which again, I've talked about earlier. I talk about RSC all the time. It needs no explanation. Brian Armstrong is the co-founder. And finally, Virus, which is kind of like Pump.Fun adjacent. It's like on-chain viral games, but it's like in a meme coin Pump.Fun-esque fashion. I'm really bullish about that project as well. And so far, that $10,000 portfolio is now worth $18,864, with a decent chunk of that coming from Brian Armstrong posting about RSC and Coinbase talking about now listing RSC. And I think actually when RSC gets listed, the percentage of my portfolio that is literally just RSC-based gains is actually going to go quite a bit higher. At least that's what I'm hoping. So we'll see how the listing actually goes. If you're interested in my $10,000 to $1 million portfolio, there's a full video on it I just released if you want to check that out. And finally, I've saved the single biggest winning position for last. I took around $23,000 of my house money and I invested it really early on into Avo. And when I say really early on into Avo, I mean literally like the day that they launched. I invested into this project, and every single time this project dipped, I invested more money into this project because I was such a diehard believer and that they were just insanely undervalued, especially if you just look at them from a narrative standpoint alone. Like there's so many stupid crypto projects that are like in the AI sector that are literally doing nothing. Like they actually have nothing behind them, but they're based on AI, whatever. They're like, we're an AI project because of this, and it's all stupid. It's like all literally Ponzi stupid stuff. And some of those projects are hitting like 60 million, 100 million, $1 billion in market cap, okay? And Avo's actually built something incredibly useful. And the ability for you to give money to an AI agent that goes and buys all the assets for you. So it's like a one-click buy for you in terms of the user. I think it's an incredibly powerful tool and something insanely useful in the crypto space. And it's really easy to see how they could build revenue, how they can build market share, etc. versus some of these like obscure, like, oh, we're a on-chain data place for AI, or like stupid concepts like that are probably never going to go anywhere. So for me, it was like a no-brainer. Just really bullish about Avo at the time. Most of my buys were around $700,000 in market cap, and it just, again, seemed like a no-brainer. Like obviously, given an alt season, this thing's going to be higher than $700,000 in market cap. So I ended up investing in total around $23,000 into Avo. And today that $23,000 is worth around $205,424. Which is absolutely unhinged insane, but I have zero plans of selling this token anytime soon, because it is my belief that if it goes to $205,000 right now before an alt season, it is going to go 10x to 100x higher given an alt season. And again, I'm a diehard believer that alt season is coming. You don't have to believe me on that, but if you want to go watch some of my other videos on like why I have such deep conviction and confidence, I spend a stupid amount of time studying these things, studying macro conditions and like where the market is going. And I'm telling you, like based on everything that I'm seeing, we should see a crypto alt season, or at least the typical environment that we've seen in 2013, 2017, and 2021 that has led to an alt season later this year around October. Plus, we have all kinds of other catalysts that to me just all wrap up into we're going to see an insane crypto alt season later this year, and all of these things are going to go significantly higher from there. So I'm not selling a single token. Maybe I'm stupid. Maybe I am delusional, and I'm going to end up regretting this. But this is how I've been for the past couple of years. I've not been selling tokens. I've only been buying more because I believe, and I'm genuinely willing to bet everything that I'm right about this. If you want to learn more about why I have such deep conviction the alt season is coming, I recently posted a video called I've Waited Years for This Macro Setup. It's finally here. I do a really good job explaining exactly why I have this deep conviction. In total, initially, again, I had around $160,000 of money from selling my house that I invested. Today, that $160,000 is worth around $400,623,000. Again, if you're interested in seeing my entire portfolio every time I buy and sell, weekly macro market updates on alt season timing, etc., as well as updates from my 2-week model, make sure to check out the Obsidian Council. Currently, it's closed to new members, but if you're interested in joining the waitlist, there's a link in the description of this video. As always, of course, none of this is investment advice. None of this is me telling you to buy any of these tokens. I'm obviously not your financial advisor. You need to act like an adult and take responsibility for your own investment decisions. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the little bell next to it to be notified each time I release a new video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.